Welcome to the Cocktail Guru Podcast,
a show about food, drink, and entertainment,
with a tight focus on the good life,
and all things delicious, luxurious, and fun.
I'm Jonathan Pogash, bartender, author, TV personality, and founder of the Cocktail Guru.
And I'm Jeffrey Pogash, wine and spirits professional, author, insatiable collector of culinary ephemera, and so people tell me, an engaging raconteur.
And my dad. Way to show that cocktail or mocktail loving your family that you really care this holiday season than with a Cocktail Guru certified 100% cotton hoodie or a fashionable snapback baseball cap. The new Cocktail Guru shop has all of your holiday gift needs right there in one spot. It's, shall we say, a one-stop shop for things like bar tools, wearables, full cocktail box kits, and more. We're even offering a special 10% off holiday season discount with the code HOLIDAY22. But this offer only lasts through January 31st. So head on over to shop.thecocktailguru.com to peruse our offerings. That's shop.thecocktailguru.com, 10% off with code HOLIDAY22. Cheers and happy holidays. Dad, I have a question for you. Are you ready?
Yes, son. What would that be?
How are you doing? Are you doing well? You feel good?
I do. Yes, there are challenging days, but I'm doing generally very well. I'm having a great time. I had a wonderful lunch yesterday in New York City with some very old friends from the industry who I had not seen in a long time. We were at Keen's Steakhouse yesterday.
Oh my goodness!
So that was great.
Keen's.
That was fantastic.
So you had fun, right? Would you say?
Yes, I would say that I had fun. I had a very enjoyable and delicious meal and fun with the guys. Yeah.
I was listening to something the other day. I think it was probably on NPR, where it was all about fun and how we don't treat ourselves that well anymore, and we don't really go out of our way to have fun. And if we do have fun, it's not the kind of fun that human beings really need. And that's great that the wellness part of you, Dad, is kind of to have fun. And we obviously want to stay well mentally and stay well physically. And that is a challenge in our industry, wouldn't you say?
Yes, it is. And I need more. It showed me that I need more fun, more direct contact with new friends and old friends. And I need to do that sort of activity more often, as I'm sure a great many people do. We all need human contact.
Well, that's an interesting thing, is the friend part too, and
yes.
Having friends. You have different friends at different times of your lives, at the different times of your life, right?
Absolutely. Oh, yes.
I mean, you've got long-standing friends, you have new friends, you have work friends, you have just fun friends.
Yeah, well, I would say most of the people that I'm talking about when I use the term friends are former business acquaintances, and for people that I hung out with, did a lot with. So I even though they're more business friends, I still consider them friends. They're not because I don't have that many personal friends. I really don't. Most of my friends are from the wine and spirits industry.
You know what, Dad? You're my friend. I'm your friend. And we have a great friend. We have a great friend on the show today. Our guest, in fact, is someone who really has done it all. He has been, and he is still, a very successful bartender, bar owner in Washington, D.C., winner of all kinds of awards. I've known him for a very, very long time. So his awards are from Best Bartender of the Year to Best Cocktail Bar in America for a place called Columbia Room in Washington, D.C. And we're just getting started here, guys, because he's also an author of Mindful Mixology, published just this year, as well as a book called Spirits, Sugar, Water, Bitters, How the Cocktail Conquered the World. Dad, you love this because he is also the chief spirits advisor to the National Archives Foundation.
Yes, very exciting. Very exciting.
Oh my gosh. And I just saw recently, well, not that recently, several weeks ago, that he is starting his own wellness coaching company. And I would definitely want to hear more about that. So, ladies and gentlemen, let us please welcome Mr. Derek Brown.
Hey, how are
you? Welcome, Derek.
Thank you so much for including me. Appreciate it. And that
it's a great
wonderful
pleasure.
wind up.
Yeah. We all need wellness coaching. No question about that.
Well, I want to get right into that part of things, because what is it? So we were my dad and I just now we're talking about our industry and how wellness has never really been a focus, for us, for bartenders, for even other people, brand ambassadors. It's like a churn and burn. It's like you go, you hustle until you burn out, and then you maybe get 5% better, and then you do it all over again, and then after that you get like 4% better because you're getting older.
That's right.
So I presume that maybe your move towards wellness was kind of spurred by that.
Yeah, I mean, definitely getting older does not help in terms of, especially if you've been abusing your body for a very long time. I mean, I think for a lot of us in the industry, we live the lives of vampires. You know what I mean? Like we basically, I remember as a young bartender, like going into work at 4:00. Really, it was always like 4:15. I was late perpetually. And then working till 4 a.m, drinking till 6 or 8 a.m, going to sleep, waking up at 3, scrambling to get ready. And it was just, I mean, you do that long enough and it has some pretty negative effects on your overall health. So as you get older, it catches up with you. When you're 27, you're probably fine.
Yeah, you're really abusing your body, keeping a schedule like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And, some of it is the drinking and the eating and just the intense amount of work that you're doing, physical work, but some of it is just sleep, right? Like I didn't even know until like a couple of years ago that sleep was important. I used to brag about being like sleeping 4 hours a night. I'd be like, wow, I'm so great. I can only sleep 4 hours a night. I had no idea what it was doing to my body, my mind, my health in the long term. And so I don't brag about it anymore for sure. I guess I brag about 9 hours nights sleeping now.
Are you getting 9 hours of sleep?
Sometimes, yeah. Usually around,
holy crap,
somewhere between 7 and 9, but I try to keep it consistent. Yeah.
Okay, so what are some tips to getting a good night's sleep?
Well, the overall most important one is consistency and regularity, which is impossible to achieve in our industry, right? So that one we could kind of throw out the window. But if you can, try to go to sleep and wake up around the same time, because your body has this circadian rhythm that it adheres to, and it wakes up and it goes to sleep at the same time, whether or not you're aware of it. So that's an important part of it. But I would say that, staying active, and that's actually easier for bartenders because you can stay active behind the bar, getting a lot of exercise or really movement, not even thinking about like you have to go to the gym. You just have to move a lot. And that helps your body to get the energy out and to get ready for sleep. And so I think those are some of the easiest tips. There's a lot more, but I would say that those are 2 good places to start.
Yeah, just walking is great because I walk 3.5 miles a day, and that seems to do the trick.
If you're ever, ladies and gentlemen, if you're ever at the Short Hills Mall in Short Hills, New Jersey, you will see my dad with his fanny pack and with his headband. No, I don't think you wear a fanny pack.
With my Havana hat.
Oh, right.
I don my Havana hat every day.
Fanny packs are back, so you're perfectly hip these days wearing a fanny pack. But yeah, walking is amazing. Actually, walking is like something I love to do. And they say generally about 10,000 steps is a good start. Bartenders probably get more than that. And I think a lot of people think about exercise as this thing you have to go somewhere else to do, and you have to wear specialized clothes to, and you have to commit to a dance routine or what have you. But realistically, you just have to move. There's this great book that I read recently by a professor at Harvard named Daniel Lieberman. It's called Exercised. And he's talking about how, as humans, we evolved to move, not to exercise, to move. And so I think that's the key part of it. So walking is great. Actually, you can get a lot of moderate, quote unquote, exercise out of doing dishes or doing the lawn work, as long as you're moving throughout the day. And really, if you're exercising, you're putting aside that time, right? It's probably going to be 5% of your life. What do you do with the rest of it? You've got to keep moving. That's the key.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's very interesting is what you were mentioning that maybe discourages people from getting out there and exercising or even just walking is like the hubbub, the fuss of kind of just getting out. But really just think of it not as a fuss, think of it as just getting out and going somewhere. Like for me, for instance, I try to get the 10,000 steps a day, and I am not the epitome of wellness in the least, but I'm trying, and there are moments where I try a little bit harder than other times, and that's from up here, right? I think, but getting out, like in the mornings, I will walk down to our coffee shop with my backpack and my laptop, and it's about half a mile away, not very far, but that round trip is a mile, and that's something. And I work for a couple of hours, come home for lunch, and do that. So that is helpful. But then, you're fighting human instinct, your brain, right? Your brain wants you to do one thing, but really your body needs you to do something else. So how do you balance out what your brain is saying to your body?
Well, I commend you, because I think walking to work is a great way to do it. Even like, parking a little farther away from work, that's another way to do it. How do you get to the point where you are actually in a place where you like moving and you generally healthy? Or I think that the key to that is small incremental steps and realizing there is no magic place in time where you're going to be perfectly healthy, perfectly happy, or perfectly organized. None of those things happen. Like we're all facing whatever circumstances we're facing, our different ages, our different health impediments, And so the key ultimately is to make little choices along the way that improve your health. Those choices lead an upward spiral, right? Like, so, for me, the choice was to go skateboarding. So my son, who is turning 8 in 2 days.
Wow.
He said he heard me talk about my glory days of skateboarding when I was 16 or 17 years old. I loved it. I loved going to the ramp and skating. And he said, I want to learn how to skateboard. And I said, okay, cool. And I bought all the gear and I was really excited about it. We went together. We did it for a while and he just gave up on it. He decided he wanted to play soccer. He's very good at sports, but soccer was his focus. And I just decided I was going to keep it up. I love skateboarding. It was like no reason why I'm now 48, but there's no reason why I can't skateboard. Obviously, I have to be a little bit more careful than I was when I was 16. But the result has been that I now, go frequently skateboarding. I decided that I wanted to do other things around my nutrition and, it helped me improve my sleep. It led to this kind of upward spiral, and it was really just based on a pretty simple choice: spend time with my son, right? The next step, go to do something I love, right? I think that's another part of it. Don't go, well, if you are used to this and you like it, that's fine, but don't do an exercise you don't like necessarily. That's not going to help you if you're not motivated.
Well, that makes me think of immediately pandemic and people buying Peloton bikes.
That's right.
And you see how there's a wasteland of Peloton bikes now.
Right.
And people aren't using them because they feel like they were compelled or they're forced to be on that stationary bicycle in their homes exercising. But it's grueling. It's not fun. It's crappy. It's shitty. Who the hell wants to do that?
That's right. Yeah, no, I mean, there's so many instances, and I want to qualify it. I mean, if you're the type of person who likes the challenge of pushing yourself and you feel you have the quote unquote will to do it, I don't want to stop you. I'm just suggesting for those of us who we have a lot of trouble getting to the gym, don't think about it like that. Put that out of your mind. Now just start to look at little choices you make in your life, like parking the car a little bit further, going up and down the stairs. You've been working for an hour, get up, move around. You know what I mean? Those are, I think, the things that are gonna, improve your health. And as that goes along, that starts to improve everything, right? That improves the way you think and improves the way that you want to eat. every aspect of it, leads to this upward spiral. So that's what I try to encourage people. It's not really about these large sweeping narratives like it's New Year's, I'm going to change my whole life. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or it's, I'm going to buy a Peloton bike and damn it, I'm going to go every single day.
Yeah.
It's more
it's
about
not sustainable.
Right after this podcast, I'm going to get up and I'm going to go walking, or I'm going to do some stretching, or I'm going to make myself a really healthy lunch, and I'll make the lunch. I won't buy it. Those are the kind of choices that over time are going to improve your health and make you, and again, you never get to like this special place where it's like everything's perfect. You're as healthy as you're ever going to be. There's always challenges. And so you kind of have to keep making those choices.
And Dad, growing up, I remember you used to go jogging all the time, and that was your that was your fitness. Did you enjoy it, or was it more like, this is what I have to do?
I never enjoyed it, but I did it about between 25 and 30 years. I jogged quite a bit. I would jog 6, 7, 8 miles each day.
Yeah, you did
day.
You did a lot. I remember you would come home. You would come home and you'd be dripping in sweat.
Yep. Those were the days, right?
Those were the days.
But I never enjoyed it, but I pushed myself because I felt that I had to do it to stay healthy.
Yeah. And did you enjoy the experience of afterwards, like feeling healthy? Did you ever get the runner's high, or?
I'm not sure I ever got a runner's high. I've been looking for it. The high for me, it was not so much a high. It was just being able to continue and push myself even more. But I can't say that I got a high out of it. But I did enjoy the benefits afterwards.
Mm-hmm. Here's something that I sometimes get caught in this trap where you exercise and then you reward yourself for exercising with excess.
Right.
You know?
Yes, I went out and had hamburgers and French fries.
Right. But I ran 6 miles. So I can do that.
Right.
Yeah, that's why there's even some, evidence that when people exercise, that in itself is not, like, if a person is looking to lose weight, I don't think that's the epitome of health, but that's often associated with people saying, oh, I want to lose weight. And so they go and they exercise, and then they add on more calories, and they're like, I'm not losing weight. It's because that's exercise alone.
I'm gaining weight.
Exactly. Because exercise alone
that happened
to
me.
That.
Yeah.
It's about
that happened to me a few years ago because I started doing CrossFit.
Mm-hmm. Oh, cool.
Actually, a while ago, 8 or 9 years ago, I started doing CrossFit. But there was a period of like 6 months where I was doing it almost every day. Mm-hmm. But I was gaining weight and I wanted to lose weight. And I was like, what the hell is going on? So I was talking to the coach and he was like, well, what are you eating? And I hadn't really been paying attention to the food part, which what I've realized is actually, for me, about 90% of of losing weight is my diet.
Right. It's got, the only way to lose weight is a calorie deficit. That's it. You are spending more calories than you are taking in. That's the way to do it. So, but I think, you don't have to lose weight to be healthy. That's the other thing. If you go to CrossFit's an amazing sport. I think of it as a sport, it's really intense and people do these amazing feats in it. And they're also gaining muscle, so you're going to gain, I'm sure you gain weight that way too, like you're putting on muscle. So.
Exactly. And we're going to get to more, but we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. The House of Lustau's Solera Standout returns to the U.S. to encourage our friends from the beverage community, stronger and renewed, to join them again. You can submit your recipe from now until December 11th. Enter the Solera Hall of Fame and win a grand cash prize and a full week internship at Lustau in Jerez, Spain. And we're back. Derek, we didn't even warn you that we were taking commercial breaks, but there we go. Live podcast recording. So I'd love to, so you have this wellness business that you've started. Can you, what is it called? Can you tell us a little bit about how you came about to get certified and what exactly you want to be doing with it?
Yeah. So, I think part of it is I have to tell my personal story, you know what I mean? Because I think that's a critical part of, because a lot of people think, well, how'd you go from there to here, you know? And really what happened is, some time ago, I realized that alcohol for me wasn't working. You know what I mean? That I was drinking too much, that it had negative kind of consequences in my life in terms of my health, which we've talked about a little bit, in terms of my finances and my relationships. And I really had to start addressing my mental health first. You know, I wasn't an alcoholic in a ditch somewhere, which is a bit extreme. For me, it was just seeing that if there was this kind of like, green side and red side, alcohol had started to tip toward the red. It wasn't serving me in the way that it was. And I've had some amazing experiences with alcohol. So I didn't want to give it up necessarily, but I wanted to just change my relationship with it. And so that was the start of all this. And I was a little intimidated at first, a little scared is probably the better word, because I talked all this time about these great cocktails and the history of cocktails and what people should drink. And now I was like, what am I going to do? Tell people don't drink? Like that's not
right.
That doesn't sound right. And so I took some time. I spent some time with my friends, my family, and then I started to kind of talk to people in the public in general. And I realized that like this was not any different in a way from what I've been saying all along. I've been saying drink better, and with drinking better comes choices, right? Like it's not about giving up alcohol; it's about offering other choices as well. So no and low alcohol cocktails became a part of that. Right. And that's why after I wrote Spirit, Sugar, Water, Bitter, It's How a Cocktail Conquered the World in 2019, I followed it up so quickly in 2022 with Mindful Mixology, a comprehensive guide to no and low alcohol cocktails, because that's like the 10th chapter to me. It's like, look, there's all these great cocktails. And then here's another option too. If you are reducing your drinking, you don't want to drink, or honestly, you just that night, the next morning, you have an important meeting, or you're going jogging, or what have you. You might not want to drink that night, or you might want to trade off, as they call tempo drinking. So I think that I realized I could still do the same thing. Basically, I could still offer great no and low alcohol cocktails, but on the side, I also started thinking about health, and I started thinking about my own personal health and how I could improve it. And so those things kind of were parallel. And so I started a firm, if you will, called Positive Damage Incorporated, Positive Damage Inc. And so the idea behind it is that we have kind of three areas of practice. One is mindful drinking, wellness, and no and low alcohol cocktails. And all of those are tied together for me. I do a little bit of classes, I do a little bit of consulting, and I do a little bit of coaching, all of that wrapped in one. And I think that it's a good time to do that. I think there's a lot of people who are interested in that. And I think, as we were talking about earlier, it's high time that our industry started really thinking about those options too, because we've been hard drinking for a long time, and it's cost us a lot.
I'm following your advice, Derek, and I'm drinking well right now with my Virgin Bloody Mary.
That's amazing.
Beautiful drink. It's got all the spices, everything I wanted, a Bloody Mary, the tomato juice, the vegetable juice, the lime, delicious. Fresh lime.
Yum.
But it doesn't have any alcohol in it.
No.
Which I honestly don't.
Not necessary.
I don't miss it at all.
Yeah.
Cheers.
I think
it's not necessary.
I think that a lot of the experiences we have with alcohol, we might even attribute to alcohol, but really are just the act of tasting something delicious or being amongst friends. We were talking about that earlier. Right. When you were talking about going to lunch at Keen's and being with friends, like there's so many positive emotions that are associated with that sometimes when we're drinking, we think, oh, that's about the alcohol. And I don't want to knock alcohol. Alcohol is a wonderful piece of social technology. It definitely works in that way. But I think there's lots of positive emotions we have just being together or being in a great space or having an interesting, complex drink. And I think that you don't need alcohol to do that. And or like I said, you don't need a lot of alcohol. It can be low, it can be, full, or you switch off back and forth. I think there should be a plethora of options, really.
Yeah, and whenever I hear mindfulness and mindful mixology, I always think about Gary Regan,
Mm-hmm.
rest his soul, because he was just scratching the surface when he was doing his cocktails in the country, incorporating in the later years, incorporating mindfulness.
That's right.
And, essentially his big thing was when you come to the bar for your shift, leave your shit at the door,
Right.
and take a break before going in, and stay calm, and he would give us little crystals, right, to keep in your pocket,
Mm-hmm.
so that if you're feeling stressed, if you're feeling overwhelmed, put your hand in your pocket and feel that crystal, and that can kind of ease your nerves.
Yeah. A lot of people don't think about the emotional work that goes into bartending. You know what I mean? It's just you're taking on people's energy. You know, they're coming in from their various places, and some are happy and some are sad, and some they'll never reveal it. But a lot of people have so many expectations out of you beyond just making a drink. And so having that kind of approach to it, I think, is really important, is to realize that you have to be mentally prepared, physically prepared, and emotionally prepared to some degree to encounter people and be present, but not take on their shit, so to say. Sorry, can we cuss on this podcast?
Yes, you can.
Cool.
Please.
So I think that's like a kind of like critical thing, is to be able to be in that space, to be present, which is really what mindfulness is about. It's not a complicated thing. It just means you're here, right? And you're interacting in the here and now. And so I think that is something that when you bring to bartending, as Gary Regan kind of championed, that can be really awesome for you and the guest at the same time. It's a better experience.
Yeah. And I'd like to shift gears a little bit and go back and talk about your bars in DC and Passenger and Columbia Room, and how those came about, and sort of the arc of being a bar owner.
Yeah. Well, I got really lucky, honestly. I met a guy named Paul Rupert, who is a DC guy, and I was working at a restaurant called Comey. And Comey is was a really well recognized restaurant in DC. The chef Johnny Moniz, award-winning chef, and all of that. And Paul asked, he met me one night there, and he asked me out to lunch to just talk about what I wanted to do, which is a kind of interesting thing because I'd never really thought about it in that way. I hadn't thought about the future. I was just doing what I was doing. And I really loved being at the time I was a sommelier, but I was also making cocktails. I really enjoyed it. And he said, what do you want to do? What would be like your ideal, job or space? And as we started talking, I kind of envisioned the Columbia Room, like this small, intimate bar where you're really just, sharing the lure of the cocktails. You're sharing this like wonderful, beautiful space. You're not hurried. Everything is bespoke. Everything's made in the best way that you can. Beautiful glassware and beautiful environment. And so that would eventually become the Columbia Room. Now the thing is, the Columbia Room was never intended to make money, because how can you make money when you have 10 people sitting in the bar, right?
Wait a minute. Why in the world would anyone open a bar to not make money?
Great question.
Please enlighten us.
I started as a bartender, not as a business person. So I think that I had more passion than I had business expertise. And so as we were going along, we realized it would not be the scale of things was not enough to support the Columbia Room. So I invited my brother in, who is a very different style of bartending than mine, and he created the Passenger around it, right? Mm-hmm. So the Passenger was meant to make the money, in a sense, to support Columbia Room, and Columbia Room's only goal was not to lose money, and so in doing so, we created this kind of interesting model that we hadn't really seen before. That there were a few places that had something kind of vaguely similar, but you had this really kind of raucous, fun cocktail bar in the front, and in the back, this really, kind of quiet, Zen-like, bar experience. And so
it really was.
And it was interesting how people kind of liked that they both were there, right? Because we are complex people. We don't want one experience all the time, And so I think that kind of struck a nerve with a lot of people, and we got a lot of accolades for it, which was really cool. Eventually, we would separate those because Paul Rupert sold the space, because it was his space, and he was the one who kind of helped us, funded us from the beginning, mentored us through the process. And we would split, and Columbia Room would become bigger and eventually make money. And then the passenger,
that's good.
And then the passenger would split off and do its thing, and it still exists to this day. Columbia Room, of course, I sold earlier this year to our friends at Deaf and Company, a wonderful.
That's right.
Yeah. So.
That's right. That was big news. That was big breaking news.
Yeah, but for 12 years, the Columbia Room, I think, was an important institution, part of DC, nationally acclaimed. And 2017, we were super psyched to win Best American Cocktail Bar at Tales of Cocktail and Spirited Awards. And and that was really not just me, but the strength of the team. We had an amazing team there who have now gone on to open their own bars and start their own programs. And so in that sense, even though the Columbia Room doesn't exist anymore, it's had this cascading effect, and you have so many great bars and restaurants in the Washington, D.C. area because of it. And I'm very gratified by that.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that trend you created, in the DC world, you created that craft cocktail trend. And so we commend you, obviously, for that.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. I mean, there were some great bartenders at the time, and there's some great spaces, and I'm lucky that the Columbia Room got such notoriety out of that.
And you have some news. You started something new, if we're not mistaken. Is that correct, Derek Brown?
Yeah, well, that's just the company that we were talking about earlier, Positive Damage Inc. So I'm not ready to go back to a space. So maybe I hinted at that wrongly. I'm not. I almost had whiplash thinking about going and managing a bar.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not ready to go back to that yet. I'm really, but I do think I get an opportunity with this new company to go and help people who need it with no and low alcohol cocktails and improving their programs. Because right now, I mean, we know how to make a great Manhattan, old fashioned, Moscow Mule. We know how to do great riffs on that. But I think there really still is a little bit of a curve for no and low alcohol cocktails, where there's pieces of them that are different. Like I think with a virgin Bloody Mary or non-alcoholic Bloody Mary, you already have so many supporting aspects to it. You have the spice, you have the richness of the tomato juice. Those already kind of fill in some of the spaces for the cocktail. It's sort of organoleptic characteristics, if you will. But if you're going to make something like an old fashioned or like a daiquiri, but you're not using rum or you're not using whiskey or another spirit, it's hard because you have to fill in for some of those pieces. For instance, I mean, alcohol has a certain intensity of flavor. And that is like when you drink a cocktail, you're drinking a cocktail, right? It's not a surprise to you. It tastes, it has that intensity. It has a piquancy or bite from it, that really creates that feeling when you take a shot of tequila or whiskey and you slam your fist down on the table, that's from the bite. There's a texture to it, which is really critical. All of that, this, of course. I'm explaining it for those out there in the world. This, I think, is these parts of it you kind of have to work around if you want something like a cocktail. If you want lemonade, that's different. But if you want something like a cocktail, you have to work around those. That's one of the reasons why I wrote my book, Mindful Mixology, is because I wanted to think about that in a theoretical way, right? What are some of the sensory characteristics that we can bring into non-alcoholic and low alcohol cocktails that will help them feel like a real drink, for somebody who is a cocktail drinker. So I think there's still a little bit of lag out there in terms of, bar programs. People are starting, thankfully, to create more options, but I'd like to see them get better. And, there's a certain percentage of bars that just know how to do it and they get it. And then there's a lot of people who are just kind of struggling to figure it out. And that's part of what I do, not only the wellness aspect, not only the mindful drinking aspect, but also helping people develop that. So I do develop classes around that and do consulting around that as well.
Yeah. And Derek, before we wrap up, and I have to say, Dad, I don't know if you agree with this. This has probably been the fastest conversation. I feel like it has whizzed by, and that we're just scratching the surface.
Yes, I'm surprised that you're saying we have to wrap up. I agree.
I know we have
shocked.
to. We can keep going, but we do have to stay on track, Dad. But one thing I wanted to ask you, Derek, with the holidays approaching, because it is Thanksgiving and Christmas, New Year's, and Dad, I will see you on Thanksgiving.
Absolutely, can't wait.
But what advice do you have for hospitality professionals, and really just professionals, people who work in general? I think it could be expanded, not only hospitality industry, but really any industry. With the holidays approaching, it's crunch time for a lot of people. It's work, work, work. It's eat, eat, eat. What are some key takeaways here that you might give advice to someone about?
Well, I'll start with drinking. I think that's kind of an important thing, right? I know for myself, back in the holidays, starting October, I somehow ended up in January, and I was had drank and eaten everything in sight, and felt a little bit overwhelmed by that. So I think tempo drinking is an important part of that. And so this is a phrase that Brandy Rand used in Tales of the Cocktail this year, and I really like it. And it really just means that when you sit down to drink, that you kind of alternate, let's call it a process of alternation between non-alcoholic, low alcohol, and alcohol cocktails. So instead of going for, just 5 glasses of wine with Thanksgiving dinner and then a scotch afterwards with your cigar, maybe alternating that with no alcohol wines, which are starting to develop and get better, no alcohol beers, having a low alcohol cocktail, doing something that feels like you're still enjoying yourself. Because I'm not against, I'm not a shouldn't kind of person. I'm more of a should. You should do this, not you shouldn't do that, right? And so I think a key to that is making sure that, you have something delicious that maybe it's not as high octane, so to say. And that could go for food as well. And then making sure you're moving, maybe the instinct is to eat a lot and sit down and, watch TV or watch a movie with your family.
Right.
Another option is go ice skating. Another option is to walk around the block together. I mean, that's another thing too. I think all of it really is just bringing in other things to it, other activities and no and low alcohol cocktails or maybe food that's healthier, not giving up necessarily anything else.
Right. Well, for me, a lot of it is carbs, and I just can't stay away from having bread and having that extra piece of bread. But maybe it's having one dinner roll instead of 2 dinner rolls.
Sure.
Something as simple as that, right?
Yeah, well, could be that.
I have no dinner rolls, but I get extra stuffing. No rolls, extra stuffing.
Yeah,
also my drink option, if I may, is fresh apple cider. That is my favorite drink option during Thanksgiving.
That's awesome.
It's the one I choose year after year since I was a child, and still do it as an adult. Love it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, I'm hungry now, but in moderation, and I want to go out and move at the very same time, and I attribute that in this moment to Mr. Derek Brown. So, Derek, you're a great friend, and I wish to come down to DC very soon and hang out.
Yeah, I hope you both do. I'd love to see you. Love to see you guys, and happy holidays.
Happy holidays to you. Thank you very much, Derek. Take care.
Take care, Derek.
Tipple Time is brought to you in part by Perfect Purée of Napa Valley and Maison Ferrand.
Here yet again for another Tipple Time with me, Jonathan Pogash. Tipple Time, Tipple Time. I don't know. I'm feeling a little silly, and that's probably because I have one of my favorite rums here as our beautiful ingredient in this cocktail. This is a classic variation on a daisy, a rum daisy. And this, my friends, is Plantation Pineapple Rum. And it is actually an homage, to hospitality, because if the pineapple is the symbol of hospitality, and Tales of the Cocktail, we have what's called the Cocktail Apprentices, and they help out with all of the activations at Tales. And this was really created as a thank you to them by my good friend Alexandre Gabriel, and of course, cocktail historian and amazing mixologist Dave Wondrich. We'll just go right into making this classic variation on a daisy. Now, a daisy is a classic sour with some sort of liqueur added to it, and generally lime or lemon. I'm using lemon as the citrus in this. So we will go ahead and do 1 ounce in there, and we're going to do another ounce. So that's 2 ounces if you're counting there at home. And, well, you know, sometimes I forget things. I'm very forgetful, as you can probably tell from seeing some of these videos. So just give me 1 second. Here's my cocktail coupe glass. Oh, how embarrassing. How embarrassing, really. No, it's okay. All right, so as another ingredient, instead of my liqueur as the modifier here, I'm using the Perfect Purée of Napa Valley apricot puree, which gives a really nice savory yet delicate balance to this cocktail. I'm just going to give this a little bit of a shake. So these purees come frozen, and then you can thaw it out and use it as is. Great for bars and restaurants. You can get a free sample using the link that we're including. And I'm adding 3/4 of an ounce of the Perfect Purée of Napa Valley apricot puree. And to balance everything out and to kind of round out the flavors, I have a lemon sour that I pre-made. And I like to make sour mix at home and put it in the refrigerator. And it'll last about a week or a week and a half. This is just lemon juice and agave nectar and a little bit of water to kind of thin things out a little bit. So I'm adding 1 ounce and then another 1/2 ounce. So that's 1.5 ounce. Did you all know that there is math involved in cocktail making? I never would have thought that. Well, first of all, I never would have thought that this is what I would be doing when I was in grade school and growing up. But I'm using my math skills, and right now I am using my ice scooping skills to add ice to my mixing glass. And I'm taking my tin and topping it on top. And another shaken cocktail. You know, I think the next one we'll do a stirred cocktail. How about that? Or maybe 2 Tipple times from now. Let's give it a shake. Okay, I'm using my arm muscles. I'm shaking above my shoulder. And you may remember the saying that I always go by, shake it awake, don't rock it to sleep. Okay, there we go. And smile. Shake your face. Are you smiling? Are you not smiling? Are you grinning? That's your shaker face, right? I mean, I like to smile, even if I'm in a little bit of a bad mood. Just putting a smile on your face kind of gets you back into a better mood, doesn't it? Am I right or am I right? Okay, here we go. Beautiful daisy cocktail. And I'm going to give it a little bit of a taste. Hold on. Oh, it smells really nice. I love that plantation pineapple and the Perfect Purée apricot. Oh, yeah. That is a really nicely balanced cocktail. It would probably work really well with food. I'm getting some really nice savory notes. A little bit of cumin in there as well. There's no cumin, but I kind of get that in my palate. But ladies and gentlemen, thanks as always. This is yet again another Tipple Time, and cheers to you and to yours.
Tipple Time is brought to you in part by Maison Ferrand and Perfect Purée of Napa Valley. That does it for today's show. If you enjoy what we do, please rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. You can also support the show with a small monthly donation to help sustain future episodes. Just click on the donate button at the top of our website and choose your donation amount. To learn more about future guests, visit www.thecocktailgurupodcast.com or follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok.
The Cocktail Guru podcast is produced by First Reel Entertainment and distributed by EatsDrinksTV, a service of the Center for Culinary Culture, home of the Cocktail Collection, and is available via Anchor, Spotify, Apple, Google, Amazon, and wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.